Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to go over a line in the King's Indian defense called the Panno variation. So this is something I ran into at the Parma Open, and yeah, I wasn't familiar with the plans at all. So why not check it out? Okay, and so this is the variation after the move A6 on move 7. But how do we get here? Let's take a look. D4, knight F6, C4, G6, and this is a King's Indian. Knight F3, Bishop G7. So white is taking the center with pawns, occupying the center, and black intends to strike back using their minor pieces. Knight C3 is played, and now if we get another move, we're going to play E4. Castles, and now E4 is probably the best way to continue. I'd like to play the Fianchetto variation, however, and that comes from the move G3, D6. So now E4 is, or I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Usually, if you play E4, D6 stops E5. But in this case, black's staying flexible, and maybe they'll break with C5, or I'm sorry, E5 or C5 at some point. All right, Bishop G2, Fianchettoing the bishop, and now Knight C6. Knight C6 is interesting to me because, well, the knight is a little uncomfortable there, I would think. D5 is a threat at any moment, winning a tempo on the knight and gaining space. And yeah, I don't know that the knight's comfortable here because you're just going to be able to kick him again. Maybe he gets forced back to this square. But in a lot of lines, this knight ends up okay. So as long as black knows what they're doing, they can play knight c6. White castle's here, just king safety first, right? And then a6. Okay, and here's the position we started with. So white does in fact play d5 here. And what I'm doing is I'm following the main line of this Panno variation. And what we're going to focus on is looking at not just the moves, but the ideas behind the moves. And a lot of times these would be themes in the opening. And so next time I see this, I'll have some ideas on how to play it and what black might try to do. All right, so here the knight will retreat to a5. So this happened in my game too, and I was happy to see the knight on the edge of the board. But the knight is attacking my c pawn, which is loose, and it's uncomfortable to defend this. So I guess the options really are queen d3, so queen here. b3 would be an option, although that leaves the knight undefended with a bishop eyeing down, so I don't like that so much. And knight d2. In the main line, they play knight d2. So this looks awkward to me, because your bishop is now blocked, and there's sort of a cluster of pieces. So I don't know, but this is how it's played. So let's see what happens. Now black plays c5. So c5 is interesting. The idea is that if white got another move, b4 would be played, and the knight would be trapped. So c5 stops that. And also, if we were to play en passant, then the knight's going to come back to c6. And this position's equal for black, so this is good for them. So instead, the move queen c2 is played. So black does get their c pawn in the center. And now they're controlling the d4 square. So queen c2 does a few things. Well, we're x-raying the defense of the c pawn, which is good. We're potentially preparing or supporting an e4 thrust. And it also maintains defense of the knight on d2. So a lot of stuff going on here. Rook b8 is now played with nasty intentions. Black wants to play the b5 break. So, okay, this can be stopped with the move a4, and that looks most natural to me. I don't allow that b5 break if I can help it. But in the main line, and this is the Yugoslav Panno now, they play b3. So b3 is played. So white is basically saying, I'm going to let you get b5, but I'm going to complete my development with bishop b2 and counter your strong bishop on g7. So b5 is indeed played, bishop b2, and now takes and takes. And yeah, I want to talk about this position. What just occurred is a structural change, so it's a good time to reevaluate what's going on. Well, this pawn was targeted before and reinforced by b3, but now c4 is a permanent weakness. There's no pawn that can ever defend it. So, and black might have a strangely placed knight on a5, but you could argue that it's good here because the knight is attacking the weakness. In addition to that, black now has an isolated a pawn, but so does white, so we both do. And then, of course, the b file is opened up. And black's rook is nicely placed on the b file, attacking the bishop. So that's something white should always calculate now, because if the rook takes the bishop, it will remove the queen from the potential defense of the c pawn. Okay, and there's probably more than that going on, but let's continue. Black now plays bishop h6. So this is interesting. Black has a threat here. They're threatening bishop takes knight on d2, queen takes knight, and knight takes c4, winning the pawn on c4. So in that case, this must be defended. White does this with the move f4. So f4 simply blocks the bishop, and now I'm not sure what it's doing on this square. And then black makes another interesting move here. That's the move e5. So e5, well, it's not ideal to take en passant and allow the bishop to develop with tempo on the weakness, but that's actually the best move. Black is threatening to take here, and that would create another weakness on f4. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want to play with those weaknesses. So white does take here, and then now our pawn is attacked twice, so we have to do something about that. And the best way to handle this is actually knight d5. So knight d5 does a few things. So we have a discovered defense. I like to call that discovered defense of this on the c pawn by the queen. The knight is now interfering with the bishop attacking the c pawn. This knight is now well placed, so probably black will want to not allow that knight to stay there for long. And the d5 square is fortified by both our pawn and the bishop on g2. So in the main line of this, something very interesting takes place now, an exchange sacrifice. So I've never gotten this far into the line, and I don't know that I will. But let's take a look at why this is an interesting move. So obviously we're going to play queen takes, but now bishop g7, so threatening discoveries. White plays queen c1, defending the weakness. And now the bishop will take. C takes d5, knight g4, and this knight is going to get very pesky and active now. White plays rook b1, so taking the b file, which is good, and then knight e3. So this gets really interesting. The computer now wants to give the rook back, which is interesting. But the main line was rook e1, and then rook e8, And very interesting position where what is black's compensation for the exchange sacrifice? Well, their knight got really active and they have this passed pawn on the c file. So probably that is what is working out for black. Not to mention their bishop is excellent on g7. I mean, this is about as good as a bishop can be and compared to the bishop on g2, which is trapped by our own pawn. So, yeah, so what was learned from this, going through this main line? I think the main thing is that you have to watch the c-pawn. It seems like the theme in the entire opening is that the c-pawn is weak and targeted, and so you have to defend it carefully. It does feel like black has the initiative in this opening, so probably it's okay to just defend, but defend well. Yeah, in this decision, I don't know if I would play this way in a real game. To allow the move b5 creates that permanent weakness on c4. So in the main line, that's what happens. So we could decide in our games if that's how we want to play it. Yeah, and then I guess there's this exchange sacrifice, which I was not aware of. But I think I would allow that too if I was white, just because I like material. And then my argument would be, yeah, you have your passed pawn and your bishop, but I'm going to do my best to win this pawn when it comes down to it and get my pieces maybe down the b file. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this study and have a great day. Bye.